My cousin Steph texted me this back in like March. Not gonna use her real name, she'd kill me. But also, she doesn't watch this channel, so I think I'm fine. Anyway, she texts me, out of nowhere. Is it even worth opening a Roth IRA if I can only do like $50 a week? And there was this whole paragraph after it kind of apologizing for the number, like she was embarrassed to even ask. And I get it. $50 a week doesn't sound like a real number. It sounds like a, maybe I'll have some extra cash someday number, not a number that actually does anything. It's the kind of amount that feels almost like a joke next to all the finance content out there telling you to max out accounts and invest thousands a month, like you need to already be doing well to even start. So I opened up a spreadsheet. I still have it. I could screenshot it if anyone wants. And just ran it. Real numbers, not rounded, not vibes. And what came out kind of stopped me for a second. Not gonna lie. I actually texted her back a screenshot before I even finished writing a proper reply, because I wanted her to see the number before I explained anything. So I'm gonna walk you through exactly what I showed her. $50 a week, every week, for 30 years straight. Put into an index fund, S&P 500 style thing. Doesn't matter if it's a Roth IRA or just a regular brokerage account for this example. What you actually pay in out of your own pocket over those 30 years, $78,000. That's it. 50 times 52 times 30. Boring math, no trick. Now here's the part. At 8% average annual return, which honestly is on the lower end of what the market's actually done historically, I picked it specifically to be conservative. That $78,000 turns into about $325,000. I had to reread that number when the spreadsheet spit it out. You put in 78 grand. You walk away with 325. The other $247,000 isn't you. You didn't do that. The market did that while you were, I don't know, at work, asleep, whatever. Living your normal life, not thinking about it. If you bump the return up to 10%, which is honestly closer to the actual long-run historical average for the S&P before you adjust for inflation, that same $78,000 becomes almost $495,000. Same $50, same 30 years. 2 percentage points of difference, and suddenly you're at basically $500,000 instead of $350,000. I'm not telling you to bank on the higher number, to be clear. Markets don't promise anything. Past performance isn't future performance. My cousin, who's actually a lawyer, will text me if I don't say that. But even the low end here is $250,000 to $500,000 for money that started as $50 a week. And yeah, before someone types it in the comments, I know inflation is a thing. If you strip out inflation and just look at what that money is actually worth in today's dollars, using something like a 7% real return instead of the nominal 8 to 10, you're still looking at around $265,000 in today's buying power, not some inflated future number that only sounds big because a dollar means less by then. So even the inflation-adjusted, take away the fake growth version of this is still $250,000. That's the version I actually trust the most, honestly. $50 a week works out to about $7 a day. That's nothing. That's one less coffee run. One skipped DoorDash order. Cancel the streaming bundle you forgot you had. There's your $50. Done. And that's actually why I like this number so much as an example, because it's not sell your car advice or eat rice and beans for 10 years advice. It's stop buying one sandwich a day advice, which means almost everyone reading this has $50 a week hiding somewhere in their spending they wouldn't even miss. It's just currently going somewhere invisible instead of somewhere that compounds. Here's what made her go quiet on the phone for a second. By year 30, at that 8% number, your own contributions only make up about a quarter of the total balance, 24%, roughly. The other 76% is just growth. You put in a quarter of the money, and the market did the rest. And it gets even more lopsided the longer you leave it. Run this for 40 years instead of 30, and the growth chunk gets even bigger, because compounding doesn't grow in a straight line, it curves. The $50 you put in during year 1 isn't just $50. It's $50 that then got 29 extra years to keep growing on top of itself, over and over. So really this was never about the $50. It's about how much time that $50 gets. Time's doing more work here than the actual amount is, and I don't think people intuitively believe that until they see the spreadsheet. Say you don't start this year. You wait 5 years, then do the same $50 a week for the remaining 25 instead of 30. Same 8% return, you end up around $205,000 instead of $325,000. Same weekly amount, same effort, you just started 5 years later, and it costs you about $120,000 by the time you'd hit that 30-year mark either way. Read that again. 5 years of waiting costs you more than the entire amount you would have even contributed during those 5 years. That's not me rounding weird. That's just what the math does, because the earliest years are disproportionately valuable. They're the years with the most runway left to grow. And it's not just 5 years that hurts. Push it further. Say somebody waits until their mid-30s instead of starting in their mid-20s, so more like a 10 or 15-year delay instead of 5. At that point, you're not just losing a chunk of the final number, you're losing whole decades of that compounding curve actually bending upward. The version of Steph who starts at 25 and the version who starts at 35 aren't 10 years apart in outcome. They're more like $150,000 apart, easily, just from the same $50 a week, starting at 2 different ages. That's the part people underestimate the most. It's never really about the amount. It's about which decade of your life the money's working in. One thing I do want to say, because I don't want this to sound like, just do this one thing and you're set for life. This is one piece of a bigger picture. You've still got to deal with debt, an emergency fund. All of that stuff matters too. This isn't a replacement for any of it. But as a baseline habit, something running quietly in the background while you handle everything else, $50 a week is a genuinely strong floor to build on top of. So if you've been putting off starting because $50 a week feels too small to matter, I get it, genuinely. It doesn't look like anything sitting there in your checking account on a random Tuesday. But the math doesn't care how it feels. 78 grand of your own money, put in consistently for 30 years, realistically turns into somewhere between $250,000 and $500,000, and the only heroic thing you had to do was not touch it. Steph opened the Roth IRA for what it's worth. $50 a week, automatic, same day her check hits. She still texts me sometimes when the market dips, asking if she should panic. I tell her the same thing every single time. Don't look. Just let it work. If this made you want to run your own numbers, subscribe. Next one, I'm showing exactly how to set this up so you never have to think about it again.